further south, but that's roughly it. That's where the beer that's called Budweiser is from originally. But basically this is the country. And what you have in Prague is about 10% of the population, 1 million people, and you've got 10 million people spread all around. There are beers, a new beer culture is showing up everywhere. So there are about 3 things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Yikes, I didn't do that right. What does this mean? Spot of black?
Save.
No. I just wanted to play the...
Yes.
Close the frame, sorry. Yeah, I wrote on it. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm going to show you some pictures from the Czech Republic, and we'll talk about everything that's going on. This is my wife, actually. I should say hi to her. She's Nina. At this point, she's my girlfriend, so you could say she's my ex-girlfriend here. This is a typical Czech brewery, and this is what the countryside looks like. And there are a few things I want to get across to you today. One is, if you go there, please try to leave Prague, which is filled with tourists, and go to places like this, which are really easy to get to, are really beautiful, and nobody goes there. So you'll go to this brewery, you'll see it says 1850. If I can do this one. Yeah, this one. This is the Rohozec brewery. It's just outside of Prague, less than an hour away. It's in a place called Czech Paradise. And this is the kind of place where people serve these beers and they cost about 50 euro cents or something for a half liter. Half liter is our general portion of beer. When you go to a beer festival like this, most of the beers are served in half liters, even if they have 7% alcohol, which makes for a very, very interesting day. This is a typical brewery, and there are loads of them. This is one of the few that survived. Now, there are about 3 things that have happened. Basically, the older breweries have been closed down, but there is a new generation of breweries opening up. The bad news kept going until about 2004. And around then, the numbers started shifting. So the breweries were all closing until 2004, getting fewer and fewer and fewer breweries. About that time, 2003, 2004, we started getting more and more breweries. This is not a new one. This is a really, really old one, and it's a really typical one to see. This is a new brewery, actually. These are beers. This is what you drink when you go there. This is a typical Czech pale lager. The rest of the world calls them pilsners. We don't call them pilsners in the Czech Republic. Does everyone understands I'm not Czech, right? I'm American. But I live there, and I kind of adopted the country like a lost dog. I adopted them. So, this is a typical Pilsner-style beer for the Czechs, what we call Světlý ležák. It's very deep in amber color. Sometimes it can be pale gold, almost green, but generally it's got a lot of caramel in it, and it comes from the use of decoction mashing, which is a really traditional process. If you guys want to know about it or want to ask about it, we can talk about it later. Also, often about 1% caramel malt, which is not spoken of, but it's true. This is an amber beer, which we call half dark. Let's see if I can get the next one. This is a very typical Czech producer, Ježek. It's from South Bohemia, not far from Budějovice, from Budvar. That's my map, actually. You can see when I was driving around. And Czech beers are served with a good 3 centimeters of foam on top. This is a 0.3. This is a girl's beer. Normal size is half liter, 0.5. Dark lagers, about 2%, 1% of production are dark lagers. 98, 99% of production is Pilsner style beers, pale lagers. That's pretty much all everyone drinks until we get to the next generation, which is coming next. Dark lagers are considered women's drinks. They're supposed to be good for, well, I'll tell you what, I like them myself, and when I tell people that I like to drink dark lagers, they say it'll make your boobs big. Do it okay, I think. This is an amber beer from a small brewery that opened up a few years ago south of Brno. We can go through this. But basically, the amber beers are a holdover of the Vienna lager style. They still existed in the Czech lands. Michael Jackson, the great beer writer, wrote that amber beers were extinct, but they were not extinct in Bohemia. He wrote that they were extinct in Vienna and in Europe, but they existed in Mexico, but they definitely still existed in Bohemia, not always during communism. I'm showing you this picture because it looks like a regular Pilsner, but I think from here you guys can see how cloudy it is. And there are two aspects of Czech beer that are interesting that deal with these cloudy beers. The first is unfiltered beers. They're very common. Nefiltrované pivo is the Czech word for it. Nefiltrované is unfiltered. But there's another variation which is called kvasnicové pivo. Kvasnicové pivo means yeast beer, and that's the reason why I live in the Czech Republic today. Yeast beer is like Hefeweizen, but with lager beer, but with all barley. Hefeweizen can be filtered and then have fresh yeast added to it, and the same thing exists for barley beers. So they're re-yeasted, they're yeast beers, they're really wonderful. They're very bready aromas, which often bring up a lot of the Saaz character. The Czech Republic uses almost exclusively Saaz hops, which they grow there, one of the 4 noble hop varietals, which can come across in an infinite variety of fruity flavors. It can be citrus, citrus blossom. You get a lot of strawberry out of Saaz, especially I think with these yeast beers. This is what we would call craft. When you get a kvasnicové pivo, yeast beer, you're really onto something good. Oftentimes though, you'll see an unfiltered beer and they'll call it a yeast beer or vice versa. So you have to kind of ask. This is, basically it's a pretty scene, and this is the town of České Budějovice. I'm going to try to show you some travel porn to try to entice you to go outside of Prague and see the smaller areas in the country. Sometimes they look like this, which is a really nice place, and there's a biker gang around the corner in this photograph. You can't see them. Sometimes they look like this, which is sort of the industrial version. This is Pernstein in Pardubice. Pardubice is known for having a horse race, steeplechase, where the horses get shot every year because they always break legs, and they stopped doing that. Sometimes they look like this, which is an alley going up to Platan, a brewery in South Bohemia, about 10 miles from where my father-in-law lives, from. And the Platan is named after these platanus trees. Of course, you guys know them. Sometimes they look like this. This is a really tiny brewery. The Czech brewer went to the United States or Canada, immigrated in 1968 because of all the bad stuff that went down, and came back in 1995 or so and opened up this tiny little brewery in the middle of nowhere that makes a beautiful yeast beer that you will never taste unless you please go there. It's fantastic. It's a really great place. Medlishitsa is the name. The bikes have been stolen. This is part of what Bohemia looks like. You guys know that in the Czech Republic there are basically 2 regions, Bohemia in the east and Moravia in the, Bohemia in the west, Moravia in the east, the south. This is Stromberg. This is sort of between the two, or it's actually in North Moravia, but close to the border, hypothetically. Which is known for this watchtower from which, I don't know, they used to look out for Nazis coming or something a few thousand years ago. It's a hilltop town. Actually, you go up there and you're really on top of the hill. And, you know, a few years ago they opened this thing, Městské pivovar, City Brewery. This is our car. This is our old car. We have a new car now. You guys have Škodas too? You guys all have Škodas?
Yeah.
Everyone has an Octavia?
Good car.
Yeah? Yes, I feel like at home here because I keep seeing all these Octavias. This is a 120. This is not a good car. This guy's called Sportiak, sporty guy, sports car. He has 3 cylinders. He actually has 4, but 3 work. But he got us there to this brewery, and it's just a beautiful town in the middle of nowhere. You'll never get their beer in Prague, unfortunately. There's something we're going to talk about with that coming up, though, as well. So we got. This is Sviani. This is a lager you guys probably get in Sweden. I'm not sure. It's a larger production, about 190,000 hectoliters. You know it?
I think they had this festival last year.
They might have had it. They had Opat last year for sure. Opat?
From 2 years, I've been in for 6 years.
Okay. Sviani is one of the smaller breweries.